My guest is Harry Euclid. He's the Executive Director of Hebrew University's Asper Centre for Entrepreneurship. Welcome to the show, Harry.
Pleased to be here.
Can you tell me how long you've been involved with the center?
Well, I was given the management of the center about 3 years ago when I just finished my PhD in economics after,
That's unusual. 3 years ago you just finished your PhD, so you must have had a career before then.
Right, so it looks like I'm a very young academic, but in fact I spent 35 years in high-tech in Israel. Originally I'm an electronics engineer, and I was part of the build-up of the high-tech industry in Israel.
So one of the big startups was yours?
A few of them.
A few of them?
I was involved in a few of them.
And what particular ones were you involved in?
Maybe not the most famous one, but the one which generated a full series of serial entrepreneurs later on was Fibronics, a firm creating fiber optics and equipment and stuff like this. And there are at least 25, 30 new startups which were created by former Fibronics employees and stuff.
So why would you go from being a big entrepreneur to going to do a PhD?
Well, first of all, to do a PhD, it's good for big entrepreneurs as well, but
but it's not usual.
Yeah, it's not usual. I agree. In fact, it was a kind of like many things in life, conjunctural. I realized that most of the Israeli startups fail not because the ideas, innovation, creativity, and so on, but because financial distress. And I started talking to various professors about the causes. And then I realized that there is no real research in Israel in area of financial entrepreneurship. So they offered me to sit down and resolve my research questions myself, and I started my PhD at the age of 50. So,
but it's like
sorry.
It's like an entrepreneur to do something, and before long he's head of the firm.
That's right. It was in the same area of entrepreneurship, actually.
Yeah, but it's an odd thing too, as well, because usually you're an academic in your mid-career before you ever direct a center, a research center.
Right.
So is that the reason you're called the executive director?
No. In fact, the way I'm called is not so important. Yeah. I was talking to the Asper Foundation and to the dean of the school about how the Asper Centre, the Asper Centre for Entrepreneurship, the Center for Entrepreneurship at the Hebrew University, might be performing in such a dynamic economy like Israel, and we all agree that I should try to leverage a little bit on it. So even if they were calling me secretary or whatever, I was taking the job.
I see.
The idea was to really build up something, and since we had all of us the same ideas, it worked out well for me and well for the students and well for the center.
If you had to point to the most significant contribution of the center, I'll go back a step before I ask that question, because it's odd for me. I say Israel's the innovative nation. They're entrepreneurs like no one else in the world. And there's a sense that's like bringing, selling refrigerators to the Inuit in northern Canada. Now, why is that not the case?
Well, I don't say that it's not the case, but with the global warming, maybe even selling to refugees in Canada could be a good idea.
That's true.
Well, entrepreneurship, that's true. I mean, Israel is, in terms of entrepreneurial intensity, is one of the economies which are more far beyond the others. But the question is how to capitalize on the entrepreneurial capital accumulated in an economy. Not only to have entrepreneurs, but to take out most of the entrepreneurial capital which is formed there. So the formation of sustainable entrepreneurial capital is an issue which bothers all policymakers today in the world and the big organizations. Now we have an excellent position here, a small country with a big economy, a large economy nowadays, and being accepted in OECD. with a history of building up entrepreneurial capital. Now is the time to understand, to do some research and to understand how we did it, and to work with others to spread this knowledge. This is exactly what we do here. So it is a place of, let's say, a center. Maybe shouldn't be entrepreneurship shouldn't be sold to Israelis, but certainly can be transformed in a center of expertise.
In that sense.
This is what we
do. But I gather the United Nations have given you credit and involved you in with the model you developed. Do you want to talk about that?
Well, why not? Yeah, it's, there is, as I said today, there are not only governments but also international organizations are very much involved in developing strategies for rising entrepreneurship, especially in emerging countries and weak social segments. Like we have here in Jerusalem, in East Jerusalem, the Arab sector and similar, or the youth. Now, one of the bodies which is very active is the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe, which is working from Geneva on the international level. And they issue various research reports and guidance to policymakers. Now they invited us to participate in developing methodologies. And we have actually, under the Asper Centre of the Hebrew University, we have two, what is called their interventions in the diplomatic world, two models which are used by UNECE as reference models for everybody. So on the website of the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe, you can find the logo of the Asper Centre and the United Nations as being a model to follow.
One of the things is because there's intellectual entrepreneurship too, and research centers are important because they're the center of intellectual entrepreneurship. And some of the original work was done by Joseph Ben David, who was a sociologist at Hebrew University, and he studied why America, per dollar invested way back in the 70s, was way ahead of every other country, including all the European countries, because they thought it was because the United States stole all their academics after the war. But it wasn't true. It was because the way they organized it, the way they funded it, it was the kind of leaders they chose. What have you found in your model that contributes to this kind of entrepreneurship?
All right. So first of all, everything must be adapted to the local socioeconomic system. What works in the United States won't work in a small economy like Israel, and won't work in a very conservative economy like Germany, for example, right? But there are some elements which are clearly at the base of developing such a system. And what we found is that reintegrating it synergetically, research, teaching, and outreach projects in the society which more benefit from entrepreneurship creates this momentum of build-up. If I will go back to the States, my explanation is that there were immigrants coming from countries where, as Americans, the only capital they could build on was their entrepreneurial spirit. So those who were entrepreneurs, like the Chinese and the Indians in Silicon Valley, could build themselves as proud Americans. This didn't happen with other segments. And in Israel, we have a country of immigrants, so we have a similar environment at the time we build up all this stuff. And right now it's time to just spread it to other areas. Like we have a problem with the, for example, ultra-Orthodox religion segment in Israel. We have a problem with the Arab sector in Israel. We need more younger people to go into this entrepreneurial education system rather than alternatives in order to maintain the growth. But these are the three elements which, if they work together, they have excellent results, like in the States and like in Israel.
Well, if one last and brief question, if you're bringing, do you bring foreigners into your program, like Chinese or any?
Yeah.
and they come into your program and to learn entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And you've been successful? You haven't yet measured the results?
Well, we had, let's say, the first initiatives like this were in about 2 years ago in a group of South American entrepreneurs brought here by an American endeavor, an American initiative. And actually in Uruguay at least, there are already successes.
Oh, wow.
So
well,
actually there are successes we can measure. I can measure it scientifically, obviously, because I don't have a large enough population to study, but there are clear results, yeah.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on the program, Harry, and thank you for your work.
Thank you.